there, and welcome to another day of landscape photography. We are getting very close to possibly the best time of year for landscape photography, and that is the autumn. It's a great time of year just to get out, explore, enjoy this fantastic landscape that we have available to us. It's very changeable weather, some sunshine, some cloud, possibly even some rain. So it should be a very fun and interesting day. So let's go. Before we get going though, this video is sponsored by Squarespace. If you need a domain name, a website or an online store, then make your next move with Squarespace. So I've just got to a nice spot where I think I'm going to take my first shot of the day. Now I always say on days like today that even though there's flat light, it's still worth shooting something. Now because I'm not particularly working with a lot of great light or particularly a load of colour as well, what I want to make from this image is to utilise as much shape as possible into the image. Even though it's still going to be quite a wide image, I want to use the interesting shape that's in the scene behind me. Now, it's also a good time to take a picture of something that's man-made. So in this case, it's a road. And I think it just really is, this sort of small valley that I'm in here just looks great. Behind me here, we have those really impressive cliffs. The obvious shot would be to kind of just shoot directly down the road and use that as the main leading line in the image. But by doing that, whether you shoot vertically or not, you'd be losing loads of interest in this cliff that's here, covered by those really interesting trees as well. So I want to try and get as much of that in as possible. So I've kind of got a raised position at the moment, which is letting me see all the curves in the road, which is really important for me in this shot. I'm going in with a really wide angle, about 16mm, to make sure I get those hills in there as well. I then have the road, which is obviously a big part of my image. That's coming in from the bottom right-hand corner of the frame, working its way around through the image and off into the distance. And I've tried to get the distant point of the road right on the rule of thirds towards the bottom of the frame. Towards the top of the frame, I then have these huge cliffs on the right-hand side, and just giving those trees on top of the hill there enough breathing space for the frame. Similarly on the other side, that tree behind me there, I want that in the frame as well. It will then come down to some kind of post-processing or more dramatic post-processing to make the image work, to introduce more mood into the scene, or more feeling as well, which I'm getting right now, but it is actually a very flat green image. So when I'm in post-production, I'll try and manipulate that to put more emphasis on the road, on the cliffs, on the shape that exists in this frame. So settings wise, let me just spin around to the camera. Like I said, wide angle, I'm at about 17mm. I'm just auto focusing on the cliff face just there. So that's no problem. F11, 1/20th of a second. I'm then bracketing 2 stops either side because although the sky is grey, we are still only just into the autumn, so the sun is still quite high in the sky. It's very, very bright. So I need to compensate for that dynamic range. So it's just a case of 2-second timer. It's focused in. 1, 2, there we go. And let's have a quick look at that. Yeah, it's just a really nice scene. It's a really interesting little gorge. And I think with, like I say, a bit of dramatic processing, that will be more than just a snapshot and more than just a scouting shot. There's no doubt it would look better with some nicer light, but I'm still happy. Yes. Right, I'm just making my way down this very steep hill for my second shot of the day. The sun is coming and going. This is going to be a much better shot if I've got some sunlight on that tree, got some light on the hill in the middle, and then on, I think it's Park House Hill as well. So not an original shot or original perspective by any means, but I haven't got a problem with that. And the thing I always find with shots that shoot these popular locations is that particularly if I get a nice shot and it's a print that starts selling, people that buy landscape prints don't particularly know that it's a very sort of common shot. So yours might be the first that they've ever seen of it. So even though it's known widely amongst landscape photographers, your clients or your potential customers will just think that's your picture. So I think it's always worth shooting some of those well-known locations. And also, like I always say, you can get other stuff during that day as well. But I've not been here before, so I am going to capture that, and I'm not sorry for that at all. But I do want some sunlight poking through over there, so I'm just going to get set up, see what I can do. Right, so I'm set up for my shot now, and I'm still stood on a very steep slope. So I've got the camera set up properly on the tripod with that front leg going much longer than the other two. But with a scene like this, where there's interest all around, actually, there's sort of nice green rolling Peak District hills there, and then the same sort of behind me there. But what I'm focusing my image on is the big tree just here, and then what I believe is Park House Hill in the distance there. Now, I have it composed with the tree on the rule of thirds, the cross on the rule of thirds at the bottom left-hand side of the image, then the hill there, that's on the top right-hand third of the rule of thirds, and it just makes it really complete, a really nice looking composition. Now, with a shot like this, like I say, where there's hills and stuff going on either side, it's important to think about what you want to include in the image as much as you want to exclude, because there's so much going on, and I want all the attention to be down on that tree and that hill. That's the story I want to tell here. When I was walking down the hill a minute ago, I just, in my mind, walking down there, I had in my mind, this is going to be a vertical image. A vertical image just felt right walking down the hill. I've come down further because I wanted to make sure that the hill was the peak of the image. If you look in the footage here, you can see how the hill over to the right-hand side in the distance kind of cuts into the image a bit. And that was happening when I was higher up, so I got down lower to change my perspective, to put more emphasis on Park House Hill there. Once I've done that and got closer, it's made the vertical not possible anymore. So I've gone horizontal again, but then it's too wide. So what I've decided to do is just come into the camera settings and change the settings like this to show a 4:3, because I think that's what I'm going to shoot this with. So I'm going to exclude the edges of the frame at either side because I feel that's slightly distracting. There is a tree just down here with a tint of autumn colours that I'm just letting into the image, giving it a little bit of breathing room as well. I think that looks really good in a 4:3. It's always important to consider what gets in, what gets out, why are you excluding it. Nothing should happen by chance with your composition. It's thinking it through all the time to get what you want. Right, settings wise, very straightforward. F11, I'm focusing on the tree, 1/15 of a second, ISO 100, bracketing 2 stops either side to gather all the dynamic range. Then I'm just waiting for the light, because at the moment it's a nice composition. The sky in the distance is quite interesting. There's some nice clouds there, bits of blue. The sheep have now moved away, which is good as well. But I need some light on that tree and on the hill. Without that, it is just going to be a scouting shot. I'm hopeful though. Even now there's a break in the cloud coming, so I'm just going to sit here with Paddy, have a little chat, bit of a drink, a little snack maybe, and wait for the light. There are worse places to wait though, aren't there? Absolutely beautiful. Right, it's happening now. You can see the sun into the lens. I'm just adjusting the shutter speed a touch. 2 second timer, sorry. Don't want to. Bang, there we go. Yes, that's looking nice. When you get moments like this and the light changes, you do need to be sure that you're changing your exposure. Ideally, you're in manual, just roll that shutter speed a tiny bit and you're right there. Bracketing gives you a little bit of leeway as well. But I think this is happening. Let's have a look. Got very sore back today, so I'll just crouch down as best I can. Yeah, I mean, with the light there, that has just come alive. I will try and pull out as much of the contrast in that image as possible. Great stuff. Very happy with that. So just as we make our way to our last location of the day, I've just got a couple of things I wanted to let you know about it, which are advertorial in nature, but the first one is free. It's the new podcast that I'm doing, and it's called The Raw Room Podcast. It's completely free. I've just changed the name of the First Man Photography podcast. It's going to be completely original content. I've put 2 new episodes out just this week. The first one is a really interesting conversation with Charlie Waite, and then the second one is some of my thoughts on environmental impact that we have as landscape photographers, and I think it's an important thing to discuss. So just go to the link below, hit that, and then you can follow podcast on all of your favourite podcast apps, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, via Alexa, on TuneIn. Please do download it, subscribe, and let me know what you think. I think you will enjoy it. There's going to be lots more interviews on that coming up as well. The second thing, mentioning Charlie Waite, is I'm very pleased to announce that I am doing a workshop, a tour of the Lake District with the legend that is Charlie Waite. And it's selling out quickly. So go to the link down below, check that out, but I think it's going to be a genuine experience to remember over 3 days in the Lake District with myself and with Charlie Waite and that beautiful scenery that we have in the Lake District. So check that out, and I'd love to see some of you there. Right, last image of the day now, and I found a lovely little spot. So I've found, it's probably quite well known as well, but I've not seen it particularly before. And I'm just going to set the camera up and then I can show you it. Right, the camera is set up, and before anybody asks, I have it really high up on the neck like this to get it to kind of my eye level / height level. Crouching down, something I'm struggling with, particularly today with my atrocious back, but I've toughed it out anyway because this is the final scene of the day. That is Parkhouse Hill, the first hill there, and then Crome Hill in the distance. Very, 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 very well known location. So there's nothing to be kept secret here, but I just think this is a great view, and I want all the focus again to be on those hills, and I'm hoping that some of the light will come through the clouds there as well from the sun. There's a nice bit of sort of haze or mist in the air, which is adding some atmosphere, and if the light comes through, that nice warm evening light that we now have at about 6:30, going towards sunset about 7 o'clock, I think it could be really quite beautiful. The sun will hopefully just be off the edge of the frame, which is quite nice as well. Composition wise though, there's a farm just at the bottom here, so I'm definitely wanting to be cutting that out, and in order to do that I have popped on the 24-70, sorry. I'm at about 50mm at the moment, which is just allowing me to have both hills in, obviously, and then some of the trees on the left hand side there, just making it into the image that are actually on the hill. Then on the other side, just down here, behind the farm, there's another little bunch of trees and a really nice dry stone wall, which is kind of leading me in from that side of the frame. Really happy with the composition. The 2 peaks are then kind of more towards the center of the frame, and then because of the angle and things, it'll probably end up being a 16:9 image, because at the moment, the way I've got it composed, it's perfect left and right, but there's just too much sky in it. So simply crop the top off that into a 16:9 image, and then it'll be really nice composition, I think. Very straightforward of a really nice scene. Nothing complicated too much, just being thoughtful about what's going into the frame, what's going out of it, where things enter the frame, where things exit the frame. That's all I'm thinking about. And then it's just like the last shot, just waiting, a case of waiting for the good light to come. Settings wise, very similar to last time, f11, ISO 100, even more important this time to bracket because I'm shooting sort of towards the direction of the sun. 1/50th of a second at the moment with the current light. As it gets darker, the sun goes down, I might need to just nudge that exposure time or the shutter speed a little bit to get the exposure a bit brighter. I shall see when that happens, but if that sun comes through, you just don't know. That's just about riding that shutter speed to get the correct exposure. So, it's now a case, again, of just enjoying this absolutely stunning landscape with a mate on the side of a hill with that view, a little bit of pizza left over from last night. This is why we do landscape photography, isn't it? Because it's just fantastic. So I know I've already got 1 good image today. If I come away with another, then 2 good shots in a day is perfect. So with that in mind, I will leave you. You'll see the image at the end, so stick around for that. But as you know, this video is sponsored by Squarespace. Now, as I mentioned on the video last week, I was talking about Instagram, I've talked about YouTube recently, all places where you might want to build an audience for your work, but you're just subject to an algorithm and it's very frustrating. Now, if you have your own website, you are in total control of it. You can promote it where you want to promote it and just drive people to your website where you control everything. There's no algorithm pushing people away. Once they're on your website, it's down to you to keep them on there and build that interest in your work. Squarespace just makes it so easy. There are some really beautiful templates that are just designed for photographers, and by the time you put your images in there, which are unique to you, that website will look beautiful, clean, and also unique to you. If you're interested in giving Squarespace a try, go to squarespace.com and you can start a free trial today. Once you've built your website, you put your pictures on there and you like it, you decide to keep it, then use the offer code FIRSTMAN and you will get 10% off your first purchase. I'll see you on another one very, very soon. I'm Adam. This is First Man Photography in the Peak District. Out.